You know, for a project with millions of users and, let's be honest, just as many skeptics, Pi Network has always been a story of what if. But what if that future, the one everyone's been waiting for, arrived in a single, absolutely game-changing month? Well, we're diving into August 2025, a 30-day sprint that might have just answered the biggest questions surrounding this massive crypto experiment.
All right, so here's our game plan. First up, we'll set the stage for why this month was such a turning point. Then, we're going to look at the huge validation it got from the outside world. I'm talking big money. After that, we'll get into the fun stuff, how they actually started building a real economy. We'll also cover the crucial tech upgrades that were happening behind the scenes. And finally, we'll try to piece it all together and figure out what it means for the road ahead. So, what was the big deal with August 2025? Well, you could say it was the month Pi Network stopped being just an idea on a phone and started becoming a real force. They went on the offensive, directly tackling the two biggest clouds that have hung over this project for years, its legitimacy and its actual practical use in the real world.
And this quote? It just hits the nail on the head. This wasn't a one-trick pony. It was like they were fighting a war on two fronts at the same time. On one side, they were building trust with serious investors. On the other, they were building an actual, functioning economy for their millions of users.
I mean, just look at how packed this month was. It was relentless, one major announcement after another, from core tech changes to financial news that totally changed the game. So let's actually break down what each of these moments truly meant.
Okay, let's start with the elephant in the room. The biggest hurdle Pi has always faced: legitimacy. This month delivered two massive punches that tackled this head-on, and they came from two very different but equally powerful worlds.
In the world of tech and crypto, talk is cheap. To be taken seriously, you really need backing from the people who write the big checks, the ones who sniff out the next big thing. I'm talking about serious, professional venture capitalists.
And boom, that brings us to Ulu Ventures. This isn't just some random investment firm. These are the people known for finding and funding future billion-dollar companies. So when they publicly add a project like Pi to their portfolio, it sends a shockwave through the entire community. It's a massive stamp of approval that just instantly silences a whole lot of the skeptical noise.
But the validation didn't stop in Silicon Valley. It also came from the old guard, from traditional finance, creating a brand new bridge between the Pi Network and the regular old stock market. So, you might be wondering, what the heck is an ETP? It's actually a pretty cool concept. Imagine you want to invest in gold, but you don't want to, buy a bunch of gold bars and hide them under your bed. An ETP lets you buy a stock that just tracks the price of gold. Simple. Well, this is the exact same idea, but for Pi. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. By launching this Pi ETP, Valor made it possible for literally anyone with a normal brokerage account to get in on Pi. No crypto wallets, no private keys, none of that hassle. For legitimacy, this was a monumental leap, bringing Pi into the regulated, familiar world of traditional investing. All right, so getting the nod from the financial bigwigs is one thing, but a currency is pretty useless if you can't actually use it for anything, right? So let's shift gears and look at how Pi spent the month building a real, functional economy from the ground up.
They came at this with a really smart two-pronged attack. On one hand, they fired up their own community with a massive hackathon, getting developers to build useful apps from within. But on the other hand, they built bridges to the outside world, partnering with services that make it dead simple for anyone to buy Pi with a credit card or a bank transfer.
But wait, there's more. Two other moves really helped tell the story here. The listing on a huge exchange like OKX, that brought in a ton of liquidity and trust. And then there's this investment in a robotics company called OpenMind. Now that might seem a little out of left field, but it's a fascinating glimpse into a wild future where maybe your self-driving car pays for its own charging using Pi.
Then, right in the middle of all this action, some eagle-eyed people online noticed something massive: a transfer of 550 million Pi tokens from the Foundation's main wallet. And just like that, the community forums absolutely exploded.
Now, was there an official announcement? Nope. Crickets. But come on, the timing was just too perfect to be a coincidence. With a huge hackathon underway and new projects getting funded, pretty much everyone assumed this was the war chest being moved into position to build out Pi's new economy. And that idea just added more fuel to the fire. Okay, so all this flashy news is great, but it doesn't mean a thing if the technology underneath it all is shaky. That's why behind the scenes, the core team was also heads down, making the network's foundation stronger than ever.
First thing they did was double the max lockup amount. This gave users a really powerful way to show their long-term commitment to the project. It's a classic move, and a smart one, to create a more stable network and discourage people from panic selling.
Then came a huge upgrade we can all appreciate. They've basically killed the password. They rolled out pass keys, which means you could log in securely with just your face or your fingerprint. This makes user accounts way more secure and almost impossible to fall for phishing attacks, a really big deal for user safety.
And for all you tech nerds out there, they didn't forget you. They released a Linux version of their Node software, which makes it much easier for serious pros to run servers and help stabilize the network. Plus, they announced they were already prepping for a major protocol upgrade, which is basically them saying, we're getting this blockchain ready for prime time. Faster, more efficient, and ready for whatever comes next.
So, let's take a breath. After a month of venture capital money, stock market listings, ecosystem growth, and huge tech upgrades, what does it all add up to? What's the bottom line here? When you lay it all out like this, you see the pattern, right? August 2025 wasn't just a series of random lucky events, it was a coordinated, full-scale push on every single front. They built credibility, they created real utility, and they hardened their technology. This isn't just a story about a good month, it's the story of a project that is finally and decisively growing up. And that, of course, brings us to the ultimate question. After years of doubt, after all the criticism, did this one single month finally prove everyone wrong? One thing is for sure, the conversation around Pi has fundamentally changed. And now, both the biggest believers and the loudest skeptics are all asking the exact same thing. What's next?